probably going to be 2 feet away from me. Like, it was just like we were flying. I remember we were driving. It was me, my buddy David, who I'm going to see in New York this week, and this guy Eric. And I was driving, and Eric was in the passenger seat. And we were driving to like the Grand Canyon or something, and that's what he said to me. It was just hilarious.
Then there's the Royce travel story. He was covering the Sun Bowl one year. He got delayed. He showed up like right as the ball's kicking off. He's showing up in the press box. He goes, "Damn it, got here too early."
Yeah.
From Mike Wasik on Twitter, if the Wild could have pulled it off, would Nino for Brian Boyle have been a good deal for the Wild? I guess you answered that. From Jordan Hess, seeing what Rask has provided thus far, as drawn out and painful as it look on the ledger, will he be a buyout this summer?
I don't think that he would do that right away. Buyouts aren't really horribly expensive for him, although it lasts 6 years on the cap. But I think that you want to give him a chance back to get. It would just shock me. That would drive. I mean, could you imagine? I guess you get out of the $5.25 million, but that means you just gave away an asset. Niederreiter, a 3-time 20-goal scorer for nobody. I mean, that to me, you got to at least bring him back for 1 year, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Our friend Barb Rule asked, you can't replace Mikko. Really don't get why Fenton added D-men when it's clear they needed a center. Do you think Koivu's season-ending injury changes their focus?
Well, if Barb is talking about management, I think he still has to see what's going to happen here in the next week. I don't think that he's just going to start now sell. I think that he's going to have to. I think from that standpoint, nothing's changed here. He's going to have to see where this team is. They're still technically in a top wildcard spot because nobody wants to grab these playoff spots by the horn, so to speak. But they obviously haven't been impressive coming out of the gate, and that might be telling Paul at the end of the day that hey, this team's going nowhere anyway, and now we just lost Mikko. Maybe it's time to convince the owner that we need to retool and give away assets. But if he gives away assets, they need to be actual. Like I get tweets all the time. Like maybe he's really trying to tank here, and I'm like, you don't tank by adding a 3-year guy on Victor Rask at $4 million. Like maybe he's secretly trying to tank by adding inferior defensemen or something. But the Nino for Rask trade then. To me, you can't convince me that was part of breaking things down. That was not the right move then. I just think that if he's going to make these moves where he's going to trade significant core pieces for future pieces, they better be the right moves and not not Nino for Rask type trades. So
right. Oh, Chris, fire away.
Mike, you said you'd get rid of or reconfigure the roster. Can you say specifically who that would be?
Did I say that? I would say that I am very concerned about the way that Granlund's playing. And if he's going to really want $8.5 million, I would absolutely trade him at some point, whether that's now or this summer. Absolutely. What's tough about that is that Granlund still makes other on a team that doesn't score a lot. I figured it out today. The Wild are 30th in the NHL in goal scoring since Matt Dumba's injury.
Wow.
Yeah, and they have a 13.8% power play since Matt Dumba's got hurt.
Wow. So
Matt Dumba was a pretty big piece of this team, but still, if you look at the amount of goals that the Wild scored since Matt Dumba's injury, 49, 20 of those have been assisted by, or not 20, I think 18 have been assisted by Granlund. So he still is the guy that gets other guys' goals, but the problem is that $8.5 million, that's a heck of a price to pay when you're looking at that Marner might just get $9 million in the next little while. And is Granlund even close to that type of player? Absolutely freaking not. So, I mean, if he's going to want that, I'm sorry. You might have to make a very tough decision. I think it'd be worse if you gave him that money because he's just not that type of player. And then I think it'd be more dangerous, but Jason Zucker is just not having a good year. I mean, even again last night in Buffalo, that's where they need him to step up, and instead he's just not burying pucks or turning pucks over, and that line was very bad yesterday. So I would not trade Spurgeon. Right now I would not trade Brodin with the way that Suter is not the same player that he once was. But these are all decisions that he's going to have to make. If he starts trading those core pieces, then I think we do know where the season and the future is heading, and that Paul's going to want to start breaking down the roster. But Granlund, to me, is the biggest decision right now because he already makes $6.75 million, I think, in actual money next year, and so he's going to have to get a raise on that. And there just comes a peak amount of money that you can give him before it eventually becomes a huge burden where you can't move him lately. I mean, that's been the issue. I mean, the one reason why Nino was traded for Rask is because of that money that he earned. All of a sudden, he became very untradeable for this GM. And so all of a sudden, if you give now more players an exorbitant amount of money, they become they become almost untradeable as well. So,
good question. Thank you. From Noobs on Twitter, think Coyle goes back to center. I get scared thinking about Stahl getting traded and Rask being the top center.
Well, it is funny. I mean, if they trade Stahl, then they are breaking it up. But right, because especially with Koivu out now, that puts him in a position where if you trade Stahl, holy mackerel, where's this season going and where's the future going? So we'll see here. If they trade Stahl, we know that they are absolutely selling at the deadline.
Mike Wasik asks, any plans of doing Facebook Live of these shows in the future? Haven't really planned on it. It's a possibility. But I'm not sure we got a lot of benefit when we tried it the last time. So here's an interesting question from Mike Schneider. Does Fenton regret his decision to take the job?
I doubt it. I don't know. I mean, it's always a fun question. It's like I once recently asked Parisi and Suter if they regretted the decision coming here, and talk about a loaded question. But look, I mean, if Fenton wanted to do this job, he's gone for a gazillion jobs and he hasn't gotten it. So if he wanted to get his dream job, it had to be here. He was offered one. The timing was right. I don't think that he probably realized at the time how limited their asset pool was when it came to what has happened due to the fact that they've traded so many draft picks from here and obviously lost Huck in the expansion draft or in the trade to do with the expansion draft. So, now he's in a tough boat. I mean, there is no easy answers here. I don't envy him. How do you get this team on par with the top teams in the league? That's what I kind of meant last week when I said to Vicky that the rebuilds is not going to be simple, because even a rebuild here is just not, you can't even envision how to do it. And I'm not trying to depress Wild fans, but this is a tough situation. They're a middle of the road team right now, and if they don't sell a bunch of assets right now, then they're just going to continue to kind of spin their wheels until this offseason, because we know this team's not going anywhere. They're not. I hate to break it to you, they're not winning a cup. This is not going to be the year they're going to go on a long run, especially without Mikko and maybe even if Dumba comes back, and not 100% Dumba. So if you don't break it up now, you're kind of delaying things. But even if you break it up now, what can you possibly do here at the deadline? I just don't think that right now, unless you're making a huge monster trade, which I don't know who's doing that this is the time to even try to trade Granlund or Zucker. I think all that stuff is better to happen right before the draft. Again, we'll see. It's not an easy situation. It's not an easy to see situation on how you get the team to a point where it could kind of catapult and get on par with all these other teams that have a ton of prospects coming that we haven't even seen yet.
So when you ask Parisi and Suter if they regret coming here, what do you think their answer would be if they were home alone, talking in a room where there were no microphones?
I don't know. I don't even want to guess. It's not fair.
Damn it. All right. Jake Griffiths and Skylar Vicious basically ask, is Mikko going to be back next season?
I think so. I mean, first of all, Wild fans better hope he's back next season, because if he's not, they have a full cap hit on him. He signed a 35-year-old over cap hit. So that means if he retires on his own volition, or if he retires because of injury, the Wild get dinged for that 5.5. So at a minimum, he cannot retire. They cannot let him retire. Not that he would ever retire and not take that money. So at a minimum, what he might have to do is they start next season with him either on injured reserve or long-term injured reserve. The only reason why they would need to go on LTIR is if they needed his money to get cap relief. But then once you do that, once Mikko comes back, you have to get cap compliant again, if that all makes sense to you.
Brady Dornfeld from the back of Dulono's doesn't really want to come down here and talk to us in person, because that's a little frightening sometimes. Asks, From the back of the Dulonos, you mentioned either Granlund could be had. What happens to the power play if he's gone? Not that it can't get much worse, but without Granlund, it sure looks like it could be.
Yeah, but that's what I mean about how there's no easy answers here. It sounds simple for me to say, well, if he wants 8.5, you got to get rid of him. But then, all right, we got to think about what life would be like on this team without Granlund. And while 2 goals in 36 games absolutely sucks and is an absolute disgrace, if he's not on this team setting up goals for the other guys, because he is absolutely the best playmaker on the team. I mean, just look at those great plays that he made on the 2 5-on-3 goals in Denver. I mean, he's a special player from that standpoint. But he's at a price range right now where it's just scary to go above it. But if now he's not here, what do you do? So you're right. I mean, if all of a sudden he's not here, this is, again, what I mean by when I say if it's a painful thing to even understand where Fenton might have to take this team, this team right now, and attendance is a big issue. The owner, this is a bottom line world. I mean, look at Columbus right now; they're about to maybe get rid of Bobrovsky and Panarin, and they're already drawing. I saw a home game last week had 15,000 in that rink for a team that's in a playoff spot. So. That stuff's real. We could all sit there and roll our eyes and say that Craig Leopold needs to get on board with a rebuild, but it's his team. If you want it, buy it. He'll sell it to you. $400 million right now, yours. I bet. Maybe $450.
So you take checks? Does he take Venmo?
Yeah, he takes Venmo.
All right, I'm going to buy a team then.
What's the maximum that you could charge somebody on Venmo? Do you know? I think it's something like $50,000 or $100,000. But I last year I sent a request for that to Chad Graff. He denied it. I just thought it would be funny if he accidentally accepted it. What I would do to his bank account, like, because it's simple. I mean, you hit yes or no. Like,
tell you what, let's test it out. You send me $50,000. I'll see how the system works.
I paid for that because then what happened is that every time Chad would we would get like he would be on the road for something when he was working for the Pioneer Press. He would even if I was home, he would send me a split request on Uber, and I accidentally accepted it once. So, and I wasn't with them. Baloney.
Hey, once again, thanks to everybody who braved the elements to come down and see us tonight. I'm going to get Michael's final thought, and I'm going to give him time to think up a really good one because he loves doing final thoughts. Here your aspirin.
Can't believe you wanted me to have this whole bottle.
Well, just, actually, the whole bottle might have improved your mood. Come up with a final thought. Well, I thank Delano's Pizza, downtown Minneapolis. Been here 60 years. Twill in the Dining Galleria. Fixology Repair, 3rd floor of the Mall of America, and downtown in the Skyway. Tony Hoaglund, your State Farm agent in Champlin. And once again, SodaStick.com sponsors the basketball show in our program with John Krasinski. If you use the promo code YouBetcha, you will get free delivery. And they do a lot of hockey-related stuff, including old North Star type stuff. Final thought, Michael. And our next live show is the 18th at 6 o'clock, correct?
You're the boss. Let me go on my little calendar here. 18th
at 6 o'clock.
6 p.m. It's a Monday.
Let's hope the weather's better.
Right before they play Anaheim the day before. Play St. Louis. No, they play St. Louis the day before, Anaheim the day after. Then we go back to New York for the 3rd time in 2 weeks. Great schedule. I don't really have a final thought. Hey, Europe. You should come to Europe with Vicky, me, and Clyde. That'll be fun.
Yes, sounds like a great
DefineDestinations.com. DefineDestinations.com.
Honestly, Venmo me $50,000. I'll consider it.
There is no more fun experience than hanging out with Anthony LaPanta and me and watching us absolutely. I mean, he could make my head explode one day. There's a chance. Talk about somebody that gives me a headache and that I need to walk around with aspirin, as you guys can attest. So we're going to Munich, Austria, Switzerland next year. DefineDestinations.com. It's actually a much more affordable trip than even last year's trip to Italy, just because the prices to that part of the world in the summertime are easier, and it's going to be awesome. Poor Anthony LaPanta's youngest daughter, 2 car accidents in like a week.
No.
Yeah, just brutal. So
she was listening to him on the radio, wasn't she?
Yeah. This one,
that would be
the other one, the
ultimate
last one the other day, she didn't
driving.
make it. She wasn't at fault for either. And the other one the other day, she was like leaving her house to go to high school, and is at the end of her block at 7 a.m. and somebody hit black ice and just T-boned right into her. She had to call her parents at 7 a.m. after being in one like a week and a half before.
Oh.
So, and they just got in the rental car the day before. Just imagine that. We should ask Tony Hoaglund how you would deal with that one.